don't need this around my neck. Okay, so we're going to talk today about blocking sinamay. We're going to talk about, first of all, selecting your materials, selecting your blocks, and getting yourself ready to start work. So what I've done is I've selected this block. I think you used this for something, didn't you, at one stage?
No, I haven't used that one.
Not this one? It's not a million miles from that one you used. Okay, I'm using this one. I have cut my pieces, and the way that you work out... Oh, first of all, I'll talk to you about choosing suitable blocks. Suitable blocks are the ones that are narrower on the top than at the bottom. If you've got a really wide block, you're going to have a flat piece of material and it's going to come down and it will get increasingly bunched up as it goes down the side of the block. So if you start with one that's a little bit narrower at the top and gets a little bit wider, then you can actually block down quite deeply before you find it starts to bunch up. If you have a wide one, the bunching will make you go a little bit doo-doo. So what we're going to do is we're going to block the layers down as far as we can, and then we're going to put a band over the bunching. Now it's almost inevitable that someone somewhere in my life in the next couple of weeks will go, oh, this is bunching up. Oh, what am I going to do? You're going to go, it's meant to. Thank you. I'm going to put a band so it covers the bunching. It's a transitional stage. There's another blocking technique which I'm going to teach those of you who haven't already done it next year, which can overcome that and give you the freedom to choose a wider block. So either a little shallow crown or a little block that's a little bit smaller at the top and a little bit wider at the bottom. And the other thing about sinamay is that you can actually block a fairly wide brim, and you, if you like, it doesn't have to be, but they're fairly, not too complicated. So I kind of thought this one might be interesting, and if you have a look at this, you can see that that block will sit like that. So it'll tip up on the left and it'll tip down on the right, and it's got a little ridge in there, and it's we call these the toilet seat blocks for obvious reasons. So what I'm going to show you how to block down into there, and I'm also going to show you how to block on the other ones that don't have the ring taken out of them. Now, for my blocking, I am using this sinamay, which is the $5 a metre sinamay from
Millinery Hub.
Millinery Hub. And the first thing that you need to do is measure out the number of pieces that you want. Now, because this is fairly light and open, I'm actually going to do 4 layers. Normally I would say do 3 layers, and 3 layers will get you out of strife with most stiffened sinamay. By the way, that reminds me, you really need to get stiffened sinamay. If you get unstiffened sinamay, again, your stomach ulcer will become very active and fertile. So that's 3 layers. That's not too bad, but for this purposes of this piece, I'm going to do a 4th layer, and that's just going to give me just a little bit more opacity on the block. So there's my 3 layers of my crown, and the way that I worked it out was actually measure up the material that I wanted for my brim, and I cut squares. So we're going to, when we're blocking this, we're going to block all these layers at the same time, and we're going to do them so that they're on the bias at the centre front. They're on the cross at the centre front. That is rule number 1 with your millinery. If in doubt, it's on the cross at the centre front. And the other rule number 2 is that all the layers will agree with each other. So you'll be blocking this way, and you'll be blocking all the others that way as well. And there is somebody who's millinery I love and adore who does it differently, and she's right about everything else except that. So that's really useful information. Now, the next thing, and so I've got 4 layers of that ready to go as well. So the next thing I'm going to do, and I'm not going to make you sit and watch it in your video, is I'm going to get you to press this so that it becomes as flat as graph paper. Now, one of these has been designated my pressing cloth, but do you think I remember which one it is now? I think it might be this one. So all I need to do is take each layer independently, I've got my iron going. Now, if you trust your iron and you think it's a really good one, then you can just iron straight on there. But if you get a little disaster on there, please don't come crying to me, because
What kind of disaster would you get? That it
you
marks?
might burn your sinamay,
Okay,
or you
cool.
might get a stain on your sinamay
Yeah, right.
from the iron. Or thank you for asking.
What are you spraying on there? Is it just water?
That is just water, and that's a very good question too. So what I'm trying to do is get the curl out of this, and if this was wriggling back and forth, I did have a bit of a play with the iron before and got all the naughty stuff off it. So I'm pretty relaxed about this this iron now, so I can use that, and it's got one of those non-stick surfaces. So sinamay number 1, square, graph paper, all you need to know. So there's your first one. So you need to work your way through all the layers and make sure that they're all nice and flat. And if you've got any, see how that woofs out to the side a little bit there? If that happens, just pull that up so it's nice and square, and just smooth it out. Because this hasn't got a super amount of stiffener in it, it's not fighting me terribly much. And every so often I can just pish it with a little bit of steam, and that keeps it all nice and soft and flexible. And by the way, when you're handling your sinamay, it's a good idea to always have it a little bit moist, because it can be rather brittle if you're handling it dry. So that's a rule of thumb, especially when you're oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. Have I got Dinny there? No. Hello, Dinny. Hi, Dinny. I've given you a job. I've given you a job to Donna.
Does that mean when you're blocking it, anytime you're working with it, you spray it a little bit with water?
Absolutely. And when you're blocking it, having it damp is a really good thing, because it means that it's going to take the shape of your block.
Even after ironing it, obviously, yes.
After ironing it? Yes. Yeah, because the block isn't perfectly flat, so we're going to be, and we'll manipulate it when it's damp, and that's a really good question. Okay, so there's one more press. So I'm going to work my way through the rest of the crown, which is one more, and I'm going to work my way through the brim, and I'm going to stop now, and then the next time you see me, we're going to be blocking up the crown.
Sorry, I was videoing your hands.